Hey, I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I guess sometimes you just have to say things out loud to believe they're real. My name's Alex. I'm 22 years old. I live in a small but nice neighborhood just outside of Seattle. I work part-time in an auto shop while finishing my last year of college. My life is pretty normal, I guess. I've got good friends, a decent mom, a mom who worries way too much, and a bunch of small dreams like traveling, owning a house one day, or maybe opening my own business. But there's one thing, one person that's anything but normal in my life. Her name is Claire. Claire is my mom's friend, not a childhood friend or someone from way back. They've only known each other for about 4 years. She's 46, just a few years younger than my mom, and honestly, I think that's what made it easier for me to see her differently. She started visiting our house when I was around 18. I remember the first time I saw her. She had this energy, this effortless confidence mixed with warmth. I couldn't stop looking at her. At first, I told myself I was just being stupid. I mean, how could I even think like that? She's my mom's friend. But over time, I realized it wasn't just a crush. I admired her, everything about her, her sense of humor, her strength, her kindness, the way she handled everything life threw at her. Claire has been married 3 times, none of them worked out. She talks about it sometimes in this casual, almost joking way, like she doesn't want anyone to feel sorry for her. She can't have children. I know how much pain that must have caused her, but she never lets it show. She always says, life's too short to drown in what ifs. That's just who she is. No matter how hard things got, she stayed positive, always trying to lift up everyone around her. And me, I just sat there and listened, completely hooked on every word. The way she talked about life, about her travels, about her mistakes and lessons, I admired her so much it scared me. I started to notice everything about her, the way her eyes lit up when she laughed, the small wrinkles around them, when she smiled, the elegance in her movements. Even when she was just making coffee in our kitchen, I fell for her hard. And no matter how hard I tried to convince myself that I shouldn't, I couldn't stop it. I knew I was in deep. I caught myself thinking about her at random moments, replaying conversations in my head, wondering what she was doing when she wasn't at our house. But I never said a word. I was terrified of ruining everything. I kept telling myself, "You're just imagining things, Alex. She doesn't see you that way. Don't be an idiot." Then came the night that changed everything. Claire had come over to have dinner with my mom like she did every couple of weeks. They laughed and talked about work recipes, random gossip. I barely said a word. I just watched her quietly enjoying the way she filled the room with her energy. When it got late, she stood up to leave. My mom was busy cleaning up the kitchen, so I offered to walk Claire to the door. My heart was racing the whole time. I kept thinking, don't say anything, just say goodnight and walk away. But when we got to the door, I couldn't stop myself. I don't even know where the courage came from. Maybe I was tired of pretending. Maybe I just couldn't take it anymore. I looked at her and said softly, "You look beautiful tonight." For a split second, Claire froze. She stared at me, and I thought I'd completely screwed up. Then slowly she smiled, the kind of smile that feels like it's only meant for you. She leaned a little closer and whispered, "You're braver than I thought." I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stood there completely stunned. That one sentence felt like a doorway had opened. Was she teasing me? Did she know how I felt? Or was it just an innocent comment? I didn't know. But I knew one thing: I wasn't imagining the connection anymore. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. What did she mean? Was that her way of saying she noticed me too? Was this finally my chance? I knew I had to find out, and I knew the next move would be mine. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying her words over and over again. "You're braver than I thought." What did she mean? Was it just a playful comment, or had she really noticed me the way I had been noticing her for years? My heart and my brain were at war. For the next 2 days, I avoided even going into the kitchen when my mom was on the phone. I was scared she might mention Claire, and I wasn't ready to face it. I even started doubting myself, convincing myself I had imagined the whole thing, but I couldn't let it go. Something deep inside me said that moment had meant something. that maybe, just maybe, Claire had been waiting for me to finally speak up. I spent an entire evening typing out a message on my phone, deleting it, rewriting it, staring at the screen for hours. I knew I couldn't just ask her out directly. That would be too bold and too risky. If she rejected me, I would never be able to look her or my mom in the eye again. So I came up with a plan. I typed out a message that looked casual, like I had meant to send it to someone else. "Hey, are you free for coffee sometime this week?" I stared at the text for a long time, my thumb hovering over the send button. If she ignored it or said no, I could just play it off as a mistake, but if she said yes, finally with my heart pounding, I sent it. I watched the screen like a madman. The seconds felt like hours. 10 minutes passed, nothing. Then 15, my chest tightened. You idiot, I thought. What were you thinking? Then it happened. My phone buzzed. I almost dropped it, trying to pick it up. The message read, "Sure, let me know what day works best for you." I stared at it, stunned. I must have read it 20 times before I believed it was real. She had said yes. The next few days were torture. I wanted to message her back immediately, but forced myself to wait a few hours not to seem desperate. We agreed to meet on a Saturday afternoon in a small coffee shop, 2 towns over somewhere. No one from our neighborhood would recognize us. Saturday came, and I showed up early. I sat by the window, nervously tapping my fingers against my coffee cup, watching every car that pulled into the lot. I kept thinking, what if she changes her mind? What if this was all a big mistake? But then I saw her. Claire stepped out of her car wearing jeans and a simple blouse. She looked so effortlessly beautiful, like always. She walked in, spotted me immediately, and smiled that same warm, knowing smile that had haunted my dreams all week. She sat down across from me, casually brushing her hair behind her ear. "I was wondering if you'd go through with it," she teased. I smiled nervously, my palms sweating. "I wasn't sure if you'd even show up." She looked straight into my eyes. "Oh, I knew I would. I just wanted to see if you were really going to ask me." I laughed awkwardly, feeling both relieved and terrified at the same time. The conversation started slow. We talked about safe topics at first school, work, the weather. I told her I was finishing up my degree and working at the shop. She told me about her new hobby, photography. But after a bit, she leaned forward just slightly and said, "You really think I didn't know how you look at me?" I froze, my face flushed. "What?" She smiled kindly, not mocking, but understanding. "We women know these things, Alex. You can't hide it from us." I've known for a long time. I swallowed hard, my heart was pounding in my ears. "I'm sorry if that made you uncomfortable. I never wanted to cross any lines." She gently waved her hand to stop me. "You didn't. That's why I never said anything. I didn't want to embarrass you or make things complicated between me and your mom. But I'm here now, aren't I?" I stared at her, speechless. I had dreamed about this moment, rehearsed 100 things I would say if it ever happened, but now my mind was blank. I just couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I finally blurted out, "I've tried to ignore it, to convince myself it was stupid, but I really like you, Claire. I have for a long time." Her expression softened, and she reached out, lightly touching my hand across the table. "I know Alex and I like you too. You're sweet, genuine, and yes, brave." We sat there silently smiling at each other. For the first time in years, the tension between us had melted away. It was no longer an unsaid, impossible secret. It was real. As we walked out of the coffee shop, she stopped and looked at me seriously. "I'm not promising anything. We're in uncharted territory here, and we have to be careful, but I'm willing to see where this goes if you are." I nodded without hesitation. "I am." She smiled. "Good. Then let's just take it one day at a time." That walk back to my car felt lighter than air. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe that something real could happen between us. I knew there would be challenges, questions, and risks, but I didn't care. I was finally in the place I wanted to be for so long, by her side. The days after our coffee meeting were the longest of my life. I couldn't focus on anything, my classes, my job, even my friends. My mind kept drifting back to Claire, the way she smiled at me across that tiny table, the way her fingers brushed mine so casually yet so deliberately. I kept questioning if it was all real or just a beautiful dream I didn't want to wake up from. I didn't want to push her, didn't want to scare her away, but I also didn't want to lose the chance that had taken me 4 years to get. I kept replaying her words in my head. We have to be careful, but I'm willing to see where this goes. So I waited 2 days, 3 days. On the fourth day I broke, I sent her a message simple. Hi, I hope you're having a good day. I was wondering if you'd like to meet up again. No pressure, just coffee or even just a walk. The reply came, how about a walk tomorrow afternoon? There's a park I love about 20 minutes outside town. No one ever goes there. I smiled so hard my face hurt. The next afternoon I arrived at the park early. It was tucked behind some old trees in a small lake, quiet, peaceful, almost too perfect to be real. I stood by the water, nervously bouncing my knee until I heard her car door close. I turned and there she was, walking toward me in jeans, a light jacket, and that familiar warm smile. We started walking side by side, not talking. At first, it was a comfortable silence. I stole glances at her when I thought she wasn't looking. Eventually, she broke the silence. I almost didn't come, she admitted softly. Why, I asked. Because this is complicated. Alex, I'm not just some woman you met at a bar. I'm your mom's friend. There's a lot at stake. I stopped walking and gently took her hand. She stiffened for just a moment, then relaxed. Claire, I know. I've thought about that 1,000 times. I'm not stupid. I know this is risky, and I know people might not understand, but I also know how I feel about you, and I think you feel something too, or you wouldn't be here. She sighed and squeezed my hand. You're right, I wouldn't. We continued walking. I asked her about her photography. She told me about her recent trip to the coast and how she loved photographing the waves crashing against the cliffs. I told her about school, about how I was thinking of switching majors, but didn't know what I wanted yet. It felt so natural, so easy. At one point, we stopped to sit on a bench by the water. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the lake. Claire looked out over the water, deep in thought. You know, she said, you've grown up so much. When I first met you, you were this shy kid barely out of high school. I never thought I'd be sitting here like this with you. I'm glad you are, I said without thinking. She smiled and shook her head. You really are brave, Alex. There it was, again brave. That word had somehow become our private signal. We sat there for what felt like hours. Eventually she stood up and brushed off her jeans. I should go, she said. I stood too, not wanting the moment to end. Claire. I hesitated. Can I see you again? She looked at me for a long time before answering. Yes, but on one condition, we keep this just between us. No one can know, not yet. I understand, I said. She leaned in then close enough that I could smell the faint hint of her perfume and whispered, good. I like having something that's just ours. I walked her back to her car, my heart racing the entire time. She turned before getting in and smiled. Text me tomorrow. I watched her drive away, feeling like I was floating. I knew what we were doing was risky, dangerous even, but I didn't care. All I knew was that I wanted to see her again. Over the next couple of weeks, our meetings became more frequent. We'd meet in random places, a small bookstore, downtown, a quiet hiking trail, even a drive to the mountains where we sat in her car and talked for hours. Every time we'd said goodbye, I wanted to ask if I could kiss her, but I didn't. I was afraid to break the fragile balance we had. One night as I walked her to her car after dinner, she stopped me. Alex, she said. Yeah. She looked at me under the soft glow of the streetlight. I know what you want to ask. I froze. What? She smiled. You want to kiss me? I swallowed hard. Yes. She stepped closer, her voice soft but steady. Not yet. Soon, I promise. I nodded, even though my heart was pounding. Okay, she gently ran her fingers along my jawline just for a second. You're braver than I thought. With that, she got in her car and drove off, leaving me standing there stunned and breathless. I knew then that whatever this was between us, it was real, it was happening, and I would do whatever it took to protect it. The weeks that followed were the most surreal of my life. Claire and I had slipped into an unspoken rhythm, texts late at night, short phone calls when we knew my mom wouldn't be around, and spontaneous plans to meet anywhere we wouldn't be recognized. I lived for those moments. I'd be sitting in class or working on a car at the shop and my phone would buzz. Are you free tonight or meet me at our spot? My heart would instantly race. I'd drop everything just to see her smile and hear her laugh, feel that spark that only she could set off in me. Claire suggested something different. Let's get out of town for the night, she texted. I know a little coastal motel quiet. No one will know us there. I stared at the message, barely able to breathe. It felt like a line was about to be crossed, but I knew I was ready. I typed back, tell me where. I'll be there. I drove 2 hours along winding coastal roads, my palms sweaty the entire way. The small motel sat on a bluff overlooking the ocean. It wasn't fancy, but it was private and perfect. I parked and sat in the car trying to calm my nerves. When I finally stood up and out, Claire was already there, leaning against her car in jeans and a soft black sweater, hair blowing gently in the breeze. She smiled warmly. You made it. I nodded, too stunned to speak. We walked together to check in. The lady at the desk didn't even glance up as she handed us the keys. It felt like the universe had given us permission to exist here, if only for a night. The room was small but cozy, one queen bed, a window facing the ocean, the sound of waves crashing against the shore just below. Claire dropped her overnight bag by the door and sat on the edge of the bed, kicking off her shoes. I stood awkwardly by the window. I've never done anything like this, I admitted. She gave me that soft, knowing smile. Neither have I. We ordered takeout and ate sitting on the bed, laughing about how bad the food was and how perfect the night still felt. We talked for hours about everything, her failed marriages, the pain of not being able to have children, my hopes for the future, how scared I was to lose her if anyone ever found out. As the night wore on, the conversation slowed, the room grew quieter, the soft sound of the ocean filling the silence. Claire set her drink on the nightstand and looked at me seriously. Alex, she said softly, I want you to know something. I've been through a lot in my life. I've loved and been hurt, and I've lost more than I ever thought I could bear. I don't want anything heavy or complicated right now. I just want to enjoy whatever this is between us, however long it lasts. I nodded, completely understanding. I'm not asking for promises, Claire. I just want to be with you, even if it's just for now. She smiled and slowly reached for my hand. Come here. I sat beside her, heart pounding. She brushed my hair gently away from my face, her fingers soft and warm. You're a good man, Alex, she whispered. You've given me something I thought I'd lost forever, the feeling of being wanted for who I am, not for who someone else wants me to be. That was the moment we crossed the line we had been dancing around for weeks. We kissed soft, at first tentative, but then deeper as weeks of tension and longing melted away into the sound of waves outside our window. I won't tell you what happened after that. Some things belong to the people who live them. All I can say is that it wasn't about lust or rebellion. It was about connection, comfort, and something that felt achingly real and right in a world that would never understand. The next morning, we woke up tangled together under soft white sheets. The sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, casting golden patterns across her bare shoulder. I just stared at her, committing every detail to memory, afraid this might be the last time I'd have something so perfect. But when she opened her eyes and smiled at me, I knew it wouldn't be. We checked out early, barely speaking, both knowing we were stepping back into reality. Before we got into our separate cars, she pulled me into a tight embrace. This doesn't change anything, she whispered. We still have to be careful no one can know Alex. I can't have your mother or anyone else find out. I'm not ready for that. Are you okay with that? I held her tighter. I'm more than okay. I'll keep our secret whatever it takes. She kissed me gently on the cheek and smiled. Good, then we keep this ours. As I watched her drive away down the coastal road, I knew I didn't know where this would lead. There were no labels, no guarantees, no expectations. But I also knew I had never been happier. The drive home from the coast was long and silent. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't call anyone. I just drove, staring at the winding road ahead, the sound of the tires on the asphalt, and the image of Claire's soft smile burned into my mind. I knew life was about to get even more complicated. We had crossed a line we couldn't uncross, and while I didn't regret a single second of it, I knew we couldn't live in that perfect little bubble forever. Reality was waiting for us back home. The next few days we kept our distance. It wasn't planned. Neither of us said anything. It just happened. We texted a little simple things like, "Hope you're having a good day. I miss you. Be safe." But we both knew we needed space to process what had just happened. I caught myself wondering how things would be when I saw her again. Would it be awkward? Would she regret it? Would she pull away? Then about a week later, I got a message. "Are you free tonight? Can we talk?" I drove to her house after dark, my heart racing the whole time. When I pulled into her driveway, the porch light was off. The house was quiet. I texted her and the door opened almost instantly. Claire stood there in simple lounge clothes, her hair tied up, no makeup. She had never looked more beautiful. "Come in," she said softly. I stepped inside and we walked to the kitchen. She handed me a glass of water and leaned against the counter, arms folded, eyes serious but soft. "We need to talk, Alex," she said. I nodded. "I know." She took a deep breath. "I don't regret what happened, not for a second, but we can't let this get out of control. If anyone finds out your mom, my friends, the people in this town, it won't be good for either of us. They won't understand. They'll twist it into something ugly, and I don't want that for you or me." "I get it," I said quietly. "I've been thinking about it too." She walked closer and took my hands in hers. "I want to keep seeing you. I want this, Alex, but only if you're okay with keeping it between us. No public dates, no slipping up, no telling friends or family. I know it's a big ask, but I have to protect my life, my privacy, and you." I looked her straight in the eyes and said the only thing I knew to be true: I don't care about labels. I don't care if no one else knows. I just want to be with you, even if it means keeping it a secret. She smiled that same soft, grateful smile I've fallen in love with. "You're braver than I thought." We both laughed quietly, knowing how those words had started everything. That night, we didn't cross any lines. We sat on her couch side by side, just talking about her failed marriages, about my hopes after college, about books, movies, childhood memories. It was simple. It was enough. Over the next few months, we became masters of our secret. We met in out-of-town diners, parks where no one we knew ever went, or at her house late at night when my mom was working late shifts. We never stayed long, always careful, always cautious. Sometimes we just sat in her car, parked near the beach, watching the waves and holding hands. Sometimes we'd go for long walks under the stars, talking about everything and nothing. There were moments I wanted to shout to the world how I felt about her. There were times I hated sneaking around, hated pretending like I didn't know her when she was at our house visiting my mom. But every time I started to doubt, Claire would look at me, squeeze my hand, and remind me, "This is ours, no one can take it from us." We never made any long-term plans. We never talked about the future. We both knew that what we had was fragile like glass, beautiful, precious, but easily broken if we weren't careful. I remember one night after we'd spent a quiet evening driving through the countryside, I pulled over and turned off the engine. The car sat in complete darkness except for the soft moonlight through the windshield. I turned to her and said, "Do you think this will last?" She stared out at the fields for a long time before answering. "I don't know. I've stopped thinking in forever, Alex. I've learned that life never gives you what you plan for. All I know is I'm happy right now. Are you?" I smiled. "Yeah, I am." "Then let's just be in this moment. That's all that matters." So that's what we did. We stayed in the moment, no expectations, no guarantees, just two people who had somehow found something real in the most unlikely way. To this day, no one knows, not my mom, not my friends, not our coworkers, only us. We still don't know what the future holds. Maybe one day we'll go public. Maybe we won't. Maybe this will last years, or maybe we'll quietly end the way it quietly began. But I don't think about that anymore. I've learned from her to appreciate the now. And every time I see her, every time we share a secret glance, every time she brushes her fingers against mine when no one's looking, I remember that very first moment at the door when she smiled and whispered, "You're braver than I thought." The story of Alex and Claire imparts a poignant life lesson about the bravery required to embrace authentic emotions, even when they defy societal norms, and the wisdom to cherish fleeting moments without demanding permanence. Alex's journey from silently admiring Claire to boldly confessing his feelings teaches us that vulnerability can unlock profound connections, but only if we muster the courage to act despite fear of judgment. Claire's guarded yet open response highlights the strength in navigating complex relationships with honesty and care, protecting what's sacred while acknowledging its fragility. Their secret romance, built on stolen moments and mutual respect, reminds us that love doesn't always need public validation to be real. It thrives in trust and shared silence. The delicate balance they maintain, knowing their bond could shatter under scrutiny, underscores the importance of living fully in the present and appreciating what we have without clinging to an uncertain future. This emotional narrative urges us to honor our hearts, take risks for what feels true, and find joy in connections that may only last a season. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever taken a brave step to follow your heart? Your stories inspire and connect our community. If this tale stirred your emotions, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to join our journey of heartfelt storytelling. Let's keep exploring life's deepest lessons together.